Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. And because you're all fans of a certain HBO show, we're going to do a Game of Thrones themed program tonight, sans the bloodshed. We're going to have the people who sit on the throne right now, our seniors, Dylan and Lane. We're going to have the people who are going to usurp the throne next year, bloodlessly, I will point out. We're going to have Ryan and Brandon. I'll finish up with an overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. It wasn't their first rodeo, but it was their last rodeo. We're talking about the Greyhound men and women. They competed last weekend at Tarleton State. Didn't have anybody qualify for the Nationals, so their season comes to a conclusion. Also coming to a conclusion, Greyhound softball. They played last 3 games of the season. Greyhound baseball, they got a split against Tarleton. They have a chance this weekend to play themselves into the LSC playoffs. And track and field, tomorrow and Saturday, the prelims and the finals for the Lone Star Conference Outdoor Championships. Well, that has been your Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring on our first guests, Lane and Dylan, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and sadly, one last time, we bring to the set of Sportslook our 2 seniors, Dylan Knox, Lane Castro. Guys, thanks so much for being my guest.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.
Well, Dylan, we'll start out with you. What was the process that got you involved with Sportslook to begin with?
So when I got here my freshman year, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when I initially got here. And I always thought I wanted to do something with sports, and I always thought physical therapy was going to be that door to get me into it. And so when I got here, I took a couple biology classes, and I realized immediately that physical therapy was not for me. They were difficult. I had no idea what I was doing. And so during my first semester, I was able to talk to Jacob Aranda, and he invited me over to the studio. And he was like, hey, I'll just give you a tour, show you what we do. I work on a show called Sportslook. He's like, there's no guarantees of anything. I just want to show you the studio. And if you like it, then you can come back. And if not, then, you can go on your way. And so I came over here and I toured it, and I immediately fell in love with the studio. Came in for an episode of Sportslook, shadowed the guys, watched it. Then I started going out on high school spotlights and throughout my first semester, and got involved, volunteering with Sportslook as a whole. And then in the spring semester of my freshman year, I got hired on, and then the rest is history.
And Lane will ask you the same question. What was your initial involvement with Sportslook?
Well, I'm not a comm major, I'm a DFM major. And so Michael Pointer, who was also a DFM major, who ran Sportslook last year, he recruited me and he brought me into it, and he was the one who got me here and everything. And it was literally just, I was sitting there one day and he was like, hey, do you have a job? And I was like, nope. And he's like, do you want one? And I was like, I absolutely do. And he brought me on, and it's just been amazing ever since.
And it's interesting now that I think about it, 2 graduates of Portales High School got the 2 of you guys involved with Sportslook.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, I've kept up with Jacob. I know that he's gone on and has pursued a broadcast. What is Michael Pointer up to?
He's actually working on a production team at a church in Albuquerque with another Eastern alum, Austin Drake. And so the 2 of them are working at this church, Sagebrush. And so.
That's cool. So we'll tell the people in the listening audience and the viewing audience that there is a future.
Yes, hopefully.
Well, Dylan, looking back at your years at Sportslook, what various roles have you held with this particular show?
So I've done a lot with this show. So like I said, I started off at the beginning as a volunteer, getting any experience that I could. When Michael or Jacob were like, we need a camera 3, I volunteered for camera 3. When they said we need tapes, I did tapes. Whenever we needed audio, I did audio. And so I ultimately just worked my way up the ladder, becoming technical director, ultimately director, also editing behind the scenes. And then I was also able to be the host of High School Spotlight for a year. And then just this past year, after Michael's graduation, I became the student producer. And so I've worked my way up from, bottom of the ladder all the way to the top.
And Lane, how about you? What various roles have you played on this show?
Kind of a similar sort of story as Dylan. I started out kind of volunteering. I didn't have work study at first or anything, and so I wasn't hired on. I was just volunteering here for a semester. And I just did everything they asked of me. Whatever they said they needed, I was doing it. I was there. I always asked Michael, like, hey, where can I be? When can I be there? Like, I really want to get involved. And I apparently showed that I was worth it, I guess. They hired me on, and I've been working here ever since. And I eventually worked my way up to editor, and I've been directing and editing ever since.
Dylan, looking back at your experience with Sportslook, is there one moment in particular or a couple of moments that are really the highlights of your involvement with the show?
So the thing that really stands out to me the most is the friendships that I made in the Sportslook office. We have kind of like our office where our editing bay is, but everybody kind of hangs out in there. You know, we talk about what we're going to do in the future shows. We talk about high school games, and just like the development of friendships within that Sportslook office. I started with Jacob, who I knew, but I didn't know Christian yet. Didn't know Michael yet. Got to really know those guys. They graduated off, and then I met Lane in that office, gained a friendship with him, and then now with Ryan and Brandon in that office as well.
And Lane, how about you?
Honestly, I've been thinking about this one. We went and watched the last episode that you interviewed students on to prepare for some questions, and I've been really thinking about this one, and I think that for me, it's just the experience of being on Sportslook itself. Just the experience of being here and working for this show and just working at KENW in general has just been really great. I've loved my major of digital filmmaking, and it's been amazing, but definitely the experience here is what's really going to get me started and really help me move forward with a career in film.
If you had to look at like one particular segment, because you did High School Spotlight with the inimitable Brooklyn Beal, one particular episode, one particular game that you covered that really stands out?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I didn't think you were going to ask that one. One of the games that really stands out to me is I believe it was the 2017 state championship game between Artesia and Belen. And the reason it really stands out to me is it was the first state championship that I'd covered by myself. And so I woke up in the morning, drove to Artesia, covered that game. And for whatever reason, it ended up on my reel. There's a bunch of clips from that game, and it's just kind of stuck with me. And I don't know why, but you bringing that question out, I'm going to have to say Artesia versus Belen in that state championship game.
There you go. And Lane, I'll ask you a slightly different question. You actually came to Eastern initially to play football. And how tough a transition was it going from being between the lines and being a participant to being on the outside and trying to report or bring that to life?
Honestly, I think it was an easier transition than I would have initially thought. Because when I first came to college, like my whole thing was like, I just want to play football. Like that's all I wanted to do was like wherever I was going, I was gonna play football. And then I finally got there and I started doing it, and I was like, man, this really isn't for me. Like, it's almost like a job. And like for me, I wanted to do filmmaking, and that's another job in and of itself. You know, so much work and so much planning in it. And so, I really, it was easy. It was fun. I mean, I've enjoyed it. I would much rather be on the sidelines filming than on the field itself playing.
Well, the reason we have you two gentlemen on is because a week from Saturday, you guys are going to be going across the big stage, and you're going to be graduating. Dylan, what's in the future for you?
Man, Doc, we've been talking about this question the whole time, and I don't know what's in the future for me right now. I'm applying for jobs all over the place. I'm applying anywhere that I feel like I'm qualified, sending out resumes, my reel, everything that I can, and I'm hoping to hear back from some places soon, but I can't really give you a definite answer on that.
Gotcha. Lane, how about you?
Well, I know I want to further my career in the film industry, but I think to start, I want to start out in broadcasting at least. I've been applying for jobs at TV stations just across the nation. I mean, when I came to college, I came from Colorado to New Mexico, in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico too, and so it was really just somewhere different and somewhere new, and so that's what I want to do again leaving college. I want to go somewhere different and somewhere new.
That's interesting because when I had talked to you initially, it was like filmmaking. That was it, and this was a nice diversion. But that's interesting that you've grown to love it so much that you'd like to pursue this as your avocation.
Yeah, it's definitely been a great experience being here and working on this show. I mean, like I came in with knowledge of things and knowledge of editing and cameras and filmmaking, but the show really honed in all those knowledges and like all that stuff I knew, and Alan Crawford and everybody on here and just helping me out, and it's just been great.
And speaking of Alan, you guys correctly read my mind because I was going to bring up the subject. Dylan, I know you actually knew Richard Rivera and now Alan Crawford. Lane, I believe you've only worked with Alan Crawford.
Yes,
but if you had to sum up the guy who's the executive producer of this, what would you say about Alan?
I mean, what is there not to say about Alan? He's there when you need him to be there. He's helpful in every way that he can be helpful, and he's helped teach me everything that I know. And so, I mean, I can't think of anything that he hasn't done for me at my time here at K&W.
And Lane, how about you?
I 100% agree. I think it's just like, for me, it was like the way he taught me information. It's so different from the way I was learning things in the DFM program. It was just like a different perspective, a different way to think about something, you know, rather than just like, oh, hey, this is the way we do things in this industry, this is the way things happen. It was like, oh, hey, this is the way you guys do things, this is the way we do things, you know, maybe think about it differently, maybe there's a better way to do it. And so it's just like the way he presented the information, it's just so amazing.
And in the time that we've got left, which is amazingly drawing to a conclusion, I've got to congratulate you guys. It's been a pleasure to work with both of you, to see you both grow personally and professionally, but never prouder than at the awards and scholarship ceremony that was held last week, because both of you guys were recipients. So Dylan, Lane, congratulations.
Thank you, Doc. Appreciate it.
And one quick word of advice to anybody watching the show that wants to sit in your chair someday, what would you advise them?
Take advantage of the opportunity. Know that you have a great opportunity here in the comm department as well as at KEW. And if you're interested in TV, Alan Crawford is definitely the best boss to do so. And you have hands-on experience from the day that you get here to the day that you graduate. And so if you're interested in it, come check it out, and I'm sure you'll fall in love with it.
And Lane, same question?
Be motivated and get involved. I think, like, especially for our stories anyway, the biggest thing is like we just cared from day one. You know, we just really wanted to be involved. We were like we said, we started out in the bottom and we just worked our way up to the top, doing everything we could. Just be motivated, get involved, and do everything you can.
Well, gentlemen, like I said, it's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I know that 10, 15 years from now, you guys are going to be great successes, whatever you choose to do.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Doc.
Thanks, Doc.
All right, well, what we're going to do is we're actually going to cue up a high school spotlight with the two individuals who have the unenviable task of trying to replace Dylan and Lane next year, Brandon and Ryan, and we'll do that right now.
Hello and welcome back to High School Spotlight. I'm Brennan Warren.
And I'm Ryan Schrader.
This week we caught some Class 2A action between the defending state champs, the Texaco Wolverines, and the previously #1 seeded Eunice Cardinals.
This was a game that had all the makings to be a great one, since Eunice had previously beat Texaco earlier this season.
Let's get to some highlights. Logan Gaskins at the plate sends one screaming towards the shortstop. He can't stop it, so it goes into the outfield and is finally picked up, but not until Gaskins easily picks up the single.
At the plate here for the Wolverines, we got Cole Rohrbach. He takes a good swing at it and sends a hard grounder at the first baseman. He'll commit the error, allowing the runner to make it safely to first and the lead runner to make it to second.
Robin Winton makes contact, sending it straight to the ground and over between second and third. The shortstop gets it, but makes an error and throws it over the first baseman's head. So Winton gets the double while also bringing in 2 RBIs.
Right here we got Micah Tippett laying down a pretty solid bunt towards third. The pitcher gets to it and tries to make the throw to first, but it's too high, and the lead runner gets to third.
Freddie Davalos up to bat, hits a fast one between first and second, takes off running immediately, and gets the first baseman to run towards the ball, so he makes it there safely.
We got the pitcher at the plate. He sends one at second base. There's some miscommunication in the defense, and both runners will make it on base safely.
Cole Rohrbach makes good contact with the ball, sending it in the air and into the outfield. It curves to land between 2 defenders and isn't able to be picked up for a second. So he hits in 2 RBIs with that nice single. Winton again up to bat, sends it right past the pitcher and over near second base. Gaskins isn't able to properly scoop the ball up, so it allows the runner to slide into second safely and the RBI to come home, as well as Winton picking up the single.
Freddie Davalos sends another hard grounder between third and short, bringing in a run. He makes it safely to first as another runner rounds third, heading home. The cutoff man decides not to make the risky throw, giving Davalos the 2 RBI single.
David Davalos makes great contact with the fastball. I get my hopes up thinking we may just see our first home run of the season, but it falls just short of the fence and is caught out. The runner slides into third and is called safe.
Right here, we're going to see Dalton Thatcher round out a great outing on the mound by ending the game, striking out 2 of 3 batters. It'll be a complete game shutout for Thatcher as the Wolverines hold out to win the first game of the doubleheader 8-0. Eunice went on to win the second game 8-3.
Now for some rankings. In 1A, Gateway Christian leads the pack with a 13-0 record, followed by Dora, Elida, Floyd, and Hemis Valley.
Now we're going to take a look at the 2A rankings. Texaco holds on to that top spot with a record of 14-5. Eunice will take the second spot with a 15-6 record, followed by Estancia, McCurdy, and Mora.
In 3A, Robertson's at the top, followed by St. Mike's, East Mountain, West Las Vegas, and Nimi.
4A, St. Pius will take the top spot this week with a record of 18-5, followed by Artesia, Goddard, Los Lunas, and Aztec.
In 5A, the two Rio Rancho teams of Cleveland and Rio Rancho still hold on to the top two spots, followed by Volcano Vista at 18-4 and Piedra Vista at 17-7. Thanks for watching High School Spotlight.
Before we send you back to Doc, make sure you go and like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates, photos, and highlights.
Once again, I'm Brendan Warren,
And I'm Ryan Schrader.
and we'll see you next time.
Welcome back to Sportslook. Thanks to Brandon and Ryan for that high school spotlight. And once again, as if by magic, we've got Ryan, we've got Brandon. Guys, welcome back to Sportslook.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Doc. It's good to be here.
Well, gentlemen, the reason that you're here is because we are passing the baton, which is a good metaphor because of the Lone Star Conference Track and Field Championships coming up this weekend. You guys are going to have the task, the honor of replacing Dylan and Lane as the go-to guys for Sportslook. Ryan will ask you the question that we always ask. How did you get involved with this show to begin with?
Well, like Dylan, I was a broadcast major, and my first semester here, I didn't really participate much here at the station because I didn't know that anyone could come over here and help out if they wanted and learn and get their hands on. But my roommate Jordan had been encouraging me to come, and so I finally came with him. And I started on news, and then I started coming here Tuesday nights as well and helping out, filming and everything. And I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to get more and more involved.
Well, and Brandon, I'll put you on hold here for a sec. That's one thing that, and because we're going to talk about this during the episode, things that we're going to take for granted and we're going to try and keep doing, but things that we might like to tweak in the future. That's one thing I think we can do a better job is I've run into so many comm kids that just don't know about this.
Yeah, that's we have conversations about that a lot. There's a lot of comm students over there who they find out more towards the later years because they come over here for their practicums, but they don't really know that you can come over here whenever you want and start learning and getting your hands on before you take your practicums. And there's some situations where you just don't have the time or whatever, but there's things going on here all week long that you can just come maybe one day a week and work on news or Sportslook or creative living in the mornings or whatever.
And Brandon will ask you the question, how did you get involved with Sportslook?
Well, I guess since Ryan started way from the beginning, I'm going to have to too. My first semester, I was just kind of walking around campus doing my own thing, and there was a booth for News 3, and I thought, hey, I'll try out audition. So I showed up, auditioned, got an anchoring position on one night a week, and so I anchored on Thursday nights, and I just kind of liked to do news, and I was doing news. But then last semester, Ryan had got hired, and I was working over at the library. I wasn't going to have really any time to volunteer on news, but he said, hey, we're auditioning for High School Spotlight. There's a couple other auditionees, but if you want to come out and try, that'd be great. And so tried out for High School Spotlight, got the job. Me and Ryan started going out and filming all the time, got more and more involved in it, landed up with the job this semester, and just flourished from there.
Ryan, at what point in your life did you know that this was something you wanted to do?
Well, it was actually my last year of high school. I joined this class. It was it was the first year my high school had ever had it. It was called The Buzz. And it was basically a bunch of us kids who worked on the yearbook. We used our spare time when we weren't working on the yearbook to make cool videos about homecoming events or stuff like that. And then we threw the idea out hey, we could live stream some basketball games on YouTube. And so we started using YouTube. We actually didn't even have a camera. We used an iPad to live stream basketball games on YouTube. And same roommate, Jordan and I, we started calling the games on YouTube. And we kind of gained a little bit of a following in Clayton, as big of a following as you can get in a town of 2,000 people. But yeah, we we started doing that, and I really, really loved it. And Jordan was coming here to major in the same thing, and I was like, that sounds like something I'd want to do too, and I really love it. So.
And I have to ask you, was the Buzz a clever play on words because of your team mascot?
Yes, yeah, the Clayton Yellow Jackets.
See, I pay attention to this stuff.
Yeah, we were. That's why we chose the Buzz. Yeah.
All right, Brandon, ask you the same question. At what point in your life did you know that this was something you wanted to do?
Well, Doc, it really wasn't until my first semester here at Eastern. I came in undecided, and then during dog days, they always have like the barbecue and stuff. And so that's when I found the booth for News 3 New Mexico, and I said, well, you know what, I'll go ahead and try out. You know, I knew I liked writing, so I was kind of leaning towards regular journalism, but then I got into broadcast journalism, and I absolutely loved it. I loved being here at the TV station, the atmosphere, the people, just everything that goes into making a show, what it is. I just absolutely loved it. And so at that time, that's really when I knew.
Well, I shouldn't be surprised at your skill. You have a felicitous writing style, which you demonstrate in my History 101 class. But did you write in high school?
Yeah, definitely. You know, all required to take English classes. And I did some creative writing. You know, I'm kind of a keep a journal at night type of guy. So I like doing a lot of creative writing and stuff. But my writing was always good in high school. Like, I'd always get good grades on my essays, on all the papers that I had to do, all that stuff. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing, so I just thought that maybe that would be a good direction to go.
Ryan, we'd obviously like to think that we've got a good quality product right now, and the people that have got going all the way back to Dallin Sanders, who is the first person that actually did Sportslook. But if there's one thing that we could improve on, one thing that you would like to personally see us do moving forward, what improvement could we make?
I think that everyone who works on Sportslook should have the opportunity to go out and film highlights of games. Like Brandon and I did almost every game that High School spotlighted every week, but I think everyone should have the opportunity to go learn how to do that, and that way we could be going out, because we have 2 vans, and so we could be going out and getting 2 games a week and using one for High School Spotlight and then using both for news or whatever. I think that hands-on experience, not just in the studio, I think would be very valuable to everyone who works on Sportslook, to be able to go out in the field and learn how to shoot a game.
And Brandon, same question for you. What's one thing we could do a better job of moving forward? Outside of hiring a new host, which would be good.
No, we got a perfect host right here. Never want to see that change. But one thing that I would like to see change is the field cameras that we got. They're kind of old, kind of getting worn out. So I'd just like to maybe see some new ones. And like Ryan said, obviously get some more production people in there, distribute out the work a little bit more. Like Ryan said, we were out there pretty much every weekend shooting High School Spotlight, doing what we had to do. But it'd be real great for everyone to kind of learn and know how to do that, just to be able to delegate it off to someone else. If, say, we have the state tournament one week or something like that, but we still need to be able to do something for Sportslook, it'd just be nice to be able to hand off positions like that.
Ryan, obviously we live in a new technological age that when I was your age, we couldn't even dream of. I mean, it was too far out there, Facebook, Twitter, all those things.
Yeah.
How many different avenues are there for people to access our show now?
Well, we try our best to use what we have. We have a Facebook page, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. We post every episode on YouTube, so we definitely use that one a lot. And we try to tweet out updates of scores when we do go to games. Sometimes we don't really remember, but sometimes we'll get the final score on Twitter or whatever. So yeah, we do have pages on all of those social media platforms that people can go visit and see stuff. And even when we were at the state tournament, it was during spring break, and so a lot of that stuff didn't get to air on here, but we posted a video every day on Facebook updating the people who follow us about that week and that day at the state tournament.
Brandon, do you have any sort of an idea how many people on a weekly basis access Sportslook in one way, shape, or form or another?
The only one that I would have kind of an idea to was the YouTube channel, and I would say we get about 60 to 100 views a week usually, so not too bad. We're getting a good following going. Hopefully we start to build on that in the years to come, and then on TV, obviously, it's broadcasted, so hopefully a lot more people watch that on their
Thousands,
hopefully.
I'm sure.
We do get a lot of people when we go to games, because it's weird. Like, we go to a lot of smaller schools, Elida, Texaco, Floyd, and they're like, what are these people doing here with these big cameras? And everyone wants to walk up and be like, hey, what is this? And they want to know how they can watch. And We always tell them it'll be on at Thursday nights, and or they can catch it on YouTube if they're not in the viewing area.
We definitely drop ourselves a lot.
As well we should.
Yeah.
So Ryan, how do people in Clayton, New Mexico watch you?
Mostly YouTube, and sometimes I'll share it on Facebook and people will see it and stuff, but mostly YouTube, depending on what TV provider they have. Some people get KNW up there, but mostly people get Amarillo or Albuquerque up there, but yeah, that's basically how they can watch me.
And Brandon, how about you in your hometown of Bernalillo?
In Bernalillo, it's pretty much just YouTube. The mountain blocks a lot of like the satellite signal over there. Some people who have DirecTV and Dish Network do get to see Sportslook on Thursday night, so that's always good. But mostly it's through YouTube. I know my parents don't have Dish or DirecTV, so they always watch it on YouTube when they can.
Well, gentlemen, we did just watch you guys doing high school baseball, and in the 1 minute we've got left, Ryan, your prediction, who's going to go the farthest this year from our local area?
Ooh, Texaco had a really good outing. They've got some good pitchers in Luke Phipps and Dalton Thatcher, and I think they're 3-time defending state champions in baseball. Don't quote me on that, but Texaco looks like they're going to be good again this year.
And Brandon, how about you?
Well, I think it's definitely going to be a toss-up between Texaco and Eunice. That's the game we caught, and it was a doubleheader. Texaco won the first one 8-0, and then on the second one, Eunice came back and won it 8-3. So it's definitely just going to be kind of a coin toss between those teams, but I think they both have a great opportunity to go far.
Well, gentlemen, been a privilege to have you guys doing the high school spotlight, and best of luck next year. Let's hope we can keep the high quality that we have going for us right now.
Thank you, Doc. We appreciate it.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview segment of Sportslook, so we'll clear this out, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. Last weekend, Ivar Monat, the outstanding 800-meter runner for Eastern New Mexico University, competed in the Drake Relays, the most prestigious college track meet in America, and he finished in third place. Every contestant, when they get to the Drake Relays, they get a little pass that indicates they're a contestant, and you know what? I think that I might have one of those. I think that if we zoom in, you'll see that says contestant. Why? How do I have one of these? You never know what to look at me now, but 49 years ago, I ran in the Drake Relays. So at least I got that going for me. Well, that is going to finish up in overtime, and that will finish up an episode of Sportslook. I'd like to thank my guests, Lane and Dylan, and Brandon and Ryan. I'd like to thank a great floor crew. Had a lot of my continuing students that are going to be back next year that are operating the equipment. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.
You never know that the darkness is coming. It just comes.